All right. I think that we got 2 minutes after 12. I think we could start. Welcome everybody here to our webinar, um, Preparing the Body for Winter. And if you live in Toronto, like we are in right now, you definitely are feeling the winter today. Lots of snow,
A
lots
little
of
bit chilly,
people, a little bit
just
chilly.
very little.
Yeah. You want to push to the first slide?
Yes.
So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Kristina Bosnar. I'm the clinic director and owner of Bosnar Health. Andressa Oliveira is our one of our physiotherapists, and we wanted to come here today to talk to you a little bit about simple strategies in the winter to feel less stiff and less pain, um, learning to stay comfortable and mobile and pain free. We wanted to talk about why cold weather increases stiffness, and Andressa will specifically talk about how to reduce daily tension, um, and guide us through a short mobility routine that you can use anytime. And we should be using something like that every day. And then I will be giving you some suggestions for functional medicine strategies to boost circulation, improve your resilience during the cold weather, darker months, and reduce inflammation.
It's an honor to share with you this webinar, Christina, and super excited for a start. And I would like to start talking a little bit more why we feel so stiff and why do we feel more pain during winter season, what kind of changes that happens on the body for the muscles, how the joints behave for colder days, and probably I hope with you on the part of the impact on the mood, the focus, and the productivity. And let's try to bring a couple of simple strategies as well. And we're pretty happy to share with everybody in here what our team has to offer.
Yeah.
And let's start.
Yeah, and
So
I just wanted to introduce Andressa because she is a Brazilian trained physiotherapist, and she is working here at the clinic now, and we're really excited to have you. She brings a different level of expertise, um, not as much experience in the winter, so she understands how to really, I think, tolerate and work towards being less stiff in the winter because your home country doesn't have a lot of cold.
it's a little bit a tropical country. To introduce a little bit more myself, as Christina mentioned, I am a physiotherapist from Brazil, and I have been working in this field for sort of 10 years, and I am in love for the human body, for the ergonomics, how our body has the perfect ability of adapt in every kind of situation. And yes, I suffered a lot in my first winters. I'm still a not very experienced person to talk with property, but I'm pretty glad to. Winter time is one of my favorite seasons here in Canada, and I really enjoy it. So it's a pleasure to share how to enjoy the best decision.
Yeah, wonderful.
So let's start. I wanted to share a little bit why are pain and stiffness more common during the winter season. And I wanted to check with everybody which one is more pleasure. This all these pictures in here where a person is feeling a lot of cold, shivering with very few layers apparently. The second person who has many, many layers, apparently she's okay, but she can barely move herself. A person that has to stay with the wipe 24/7 because the nose never stop sneezing and the person gets the whole time the reminder that, oh, okay, the cold is here in my nose. I gotta do something about it. Or which one is more attracted to all of you? The option one, the winter one, or option two, where we are cozy, where we feel warm, where we can use as many layers as we want, and no matter what, we are feeling comfortable, we are throwing ourselves, and we can do anything. Hot beverages, we can read a book without worrying about it. Which looks more attracted to you, Christina?
For sure, the cozy blanket and the fire.
And that's exactly what most of people think. Here, especially here in Canada, Toronto, overall, what I hear the most from patients is it's too cold outside. I don't want to go outside. I don't want to feel cold. It's terrible. The snow is slippery. We feel heavy, we feel stiffness, pretty much because what happens with our body as the moment we start exposing ourselves to the cold is we have a vasoconstriction going on, and by consequence, most of our blood flow focus more on the center of our body. And we feel a lot of more difficulty of keeping ourselves warm for the extremities, like the hands, like the feet. And we start feeling a lot of discomfort. For instance, in order to try to keep ourselves warm, our body starts shivering. It's a very normal reaction that we feel. Even on the jawline, we start feeling a little bit more tight, and we try to keep ourselves as close as we need from the center of the body to not escape any minimum degree from the body. And because of this, all the muscles get tight. It's a overload of the muscle contractions that creates all the stiffness on the joints that can happen. And also, we don't, we cannot go outside with just one layer. I cannot go outside with just this shirt. Also, you can go, especially today. Not today.
One,
We
what a lot of
gotta
people
use.
don't know, what a lot of people don't know when you talk about the vasoconstriction, your blood vessels get smaller and tighter. The reason that our body does that, it's an instinctual mammalian response to protecting our organs and making sure they're functioning by putting all the heat there. So that just for people who don't know that, that's kind of the, and that's what we kind of hold ourselves into because we're trying to just protect our nerve, like our center of our organs to make sure they stay
Exactly.
warm and functioning.
Exactly. And by consequence, also we tend to put more and more layers, heavy layers that we are not that prepared to carry all that much of a weight the whole time. And we try to hold as much as we can. Also, we try to put ourselves in a forward position to even try to protect even more everything that we can. And because of this, we start feeling a little bit more discomfort. The muscles get tight the whole time, in trying to not fall, to not sleep, to not feel any centimeter of wind coming up into our skin. And we feel sore the whole time. It's just like a very good workout. Whenever we go to the gym, on the very next day, we feel sore. The same happens on the cold when we are not prepared.
Yeah.
And now I'll add for you.
Sure. So there's also biochemical reasons. There's the physical, shivering, heavy jackets, less movement in these jackets. And as Andressa was saying, we also move less in the winter, especially those of us who are adverse to the cold. It's why our winter seasons were always much busier as chiropractors and physios and massage therapists. And in the summer, people are out, moving more, so there's less stiffness. But one of the other things is that when we have this reduced sunlight, especially here in the northern hemisphere, and the sun is starting to set at like 5 o'clock or 4:30, we get a lower amount of vitamin D we can absorb. And actually, in this part of the world, we really don't even absorb vitamin D more than 4 or 5 months around the year. So we really have the shorter darkness and less sunlight, and that lower vitamin D can increase inflammation in our body biochemically. It's crucial for anti-inflammation, and it's a crucial vitamin that we need for immune system regulation. We have this less sun exposure, so we have less of the lower vitamin D synthesis. And deficiency has been linked to low vitamin D has been linked to pro-inflammatory chemicals in our body called cytokines, and even risks of autoimmune flare-ups. And actually, just as a side note, we have the largest amount of multiple sclerosis in the world in Canada. And I believe, as a functional medicine practitioner, it's due to our very, very low amount of vitamin D that we all have, and that's what helps be one of the factors that triggers this autoimmune disease. Um, the other thing that is also very common at this time of year is that we tend to prefer to eat when it gets darker and we're a little more tired, more calorie dense, sometimes sugar rich foods. In this time of year, we also have holidays where there's a lot more sugar, which dysregulates our immune system. But
And it's
also,
so
what a lot of people
comfy.
don't know is sugar is biochemically inflammatory to the body. So we get this sugar up and sugar down, and that affects our gut integrity. Our gut becomes a little more inflamed, our hormones become a little off. And that can cause some chronic inflammation, which a lot of people don't know that chronic inflammation in your gut is very linked to inflammation in the muscles and the joints. And I have a lot of patients when they fix their gut inflammation, um, their joints and muscles stop hurting as much and they don't need to see me as much as a chiropractor. And so that's really good information. A lot of people don't know um, that what you eat can also inflame your body, and the choices we make when it's colder sometimes aren't as healthy. You can go next slide.
But it's so comfy.
It is. But like I tell people, like bowls of soup are very comforting. And if you're using meat and bones, you're going to be doing an anti-inflammatory effect. And there's kind of an old saying that like a bowl of chicken soup can heal anything. It's because it has that biochemical effect of increasing anti-inflammatory particles in our body.
I'm gonna
Next slide.
pass.
I know, Andressa, you probably see this too, the seasonal affective stress, and some people call it seasonal affective disorder. And really what the symptoms look like, and I'm always trying to remind people we don't have to put a diagnosis. We're just looking at a group of symptoms, and our body is getting less daylight, so we want to sleep longer. Our serotonin and melatonin balance, there are hormones for mood and for sleeping changes, and this can increase our anxiety, it can decrease our mood, and it can create poor sleep. Even low vitamin D has been linked to anxiety and depression. So those two things together, just having less light in our eyeballs, stimulating our brain, makes a huge difference on our anti-inflammatory cortisol balance and actually our mood.
And I can tell from whomever is from South America, let's say this way, or especially from Brazil, everybody gets really, really down on this time of the year.
Yeah, you were saying that the other day.
It's a struggle.
And that's why it's so important to some of the tips we're going to share with you later. It's just so important to try these things that are within, everyone's grasp and can be extremely helpful if you tend to have some seasonal affective stress in your nervous system. And then less movement equals more static motion. So that we sit more, we want to be inside. And if we're not moving, not only are, I have patients whose bowels don't move as well if they are not moving on a daily basis because they need that movement. If we are sick, our lymphatic system, which is a big portion of our immune system that drains away toxins and pathogens once we've killed them, our lymphatics get stagnant. And so then we have, an overload of toxins. Um, and both are essential for removing these inflammatory byproducts. So movement has metabolic stimulation, so stimulates your metabolism. Contraction of muscles increases particles that are anti-inflammatory as well. So movement is so important. I had this professor in chiropractic college. He was in his early 80s. He was one of the first chiropractors in New York State, and actually was put in jail for a couple of years for practicing medicine without a license. That's how crazy it was back then. And his statement was always, movement is life. The day that you stop moving is the day that you start dying slowly. And so the movement is so important. For those of you who don't like going in the cold, we've got some great strategies to get you moving. Okay, next slide. Okay, so poor indoor air and lighting. And this is kind of really interesting. A viral season hits us when we come inside usually. We've got that low vitamin D we talked about, less light, so we're not sleeping the same way. But there's also that dry heat that comes up through our vents or our thermostats or our radiators, depending on what you have. And that prolonged exposure to that gassing of the opposite of the heating system, even the particles that come through those filters can be quite inflammatory. And then we're in this artificial light because we don't want to go to bed at 5 o'clock. We have things to do. And many people have a lot of overhead lights, and that also changes our hormonal balance as well. So it can change our immune system and our neuroimmune axis, our immune system, and how our neurotransmitters are produced. This can increase inflammation in our body, especially for people who are very sensitive. So some of us are a little more sensitive to air pollution and light pollution. Light pollution has actually been studied over the last decade or so, quite interestingly. We have a lot of research on too many artificial lights because it's how our modern world is. We need to not go to sleep at 5, have really become very hormone disrupting, sex hormone and growth hormone disrupting. And so we have to try and get as much light as we can at this time of year as well to make sure that we are not having this environmental stressor. And then the last thing that we often talk about this time of year, we call it cold and flu season. I call it like low vitamin D and like sugar season. Like we go inside, we have this, recycled air, and then we have the low vitamin D, and cold and viruses are always around us, but more when we're in contained environments. And even if you're not getting sick, but you're around people who are sick, that can trigger your immune system to be on high alert. And that being on high alert all the time can also create inflammation. And again, from a musculoskeletal perspective, from pain in joints and muscles, anytime your body's inflamed for a long period of time, you could have joint and muscle headaches, pain. And we see sometimes, sorry, now just last piece here. When you have this low grade immune activation, when you've been sick and you kind of can't kick it, but you're okay, but you just feel tired for a month. That's this lingering post-viral response, which we saw a lot of with COVID actually. And this can lead to fatigue and joint pain and eventually mood changes. So a lot of these things are linked to our biochemistry and how our biochemical systems work. And just understanding that and really protecting that part of our body so that we feel physically better overall is the goal.
No.
Yeah.
And just bring a little bit more about the physical part and how our body behaves. Pretty much as Kristina mentioned, there's a whole inflammatory process that triggers, especially on this time of the year. And also, as I mentioned before, we tend to be a little bit more tense the whole time, especially indoors. Because sometimes we just feel like, oh, it's cold outside, but you never know when the AC or the room temperature will be just enough to be comfortable too. For instance, we can go to many different places whenever, using Toronto as an example, whenever we go to different stores, to different places, we feel different temperatures, and we never know what exactly to use properly as a first layer when we are coming up in and out the whole time. Because sometimes if you go, for instance, to Eaton Center, we just melt it. If you go to Yorkdale, we don't feel that much of a warmth. If we go to Yonge and Eglinton area here on the Eglinton Mall, we just melt by the second we cross the door because we cannot stay with the jacket. And that's pretty much complicated because we are never 100% comfortable. So if we are not wearing a proper layer for a colder environment, we tend to start again to try to contract the muscles to protect ourselves. By consequence, whenever we are too much tight, we forward a little bit our head, all the subospitalis muscles or all the head muscles or all the TMJ muscles get tight, and many times we feel more headaches. And I learned recently a very different situation here in Canada that happens this time of the year because the different air pressure also triggers the headaches,
Yes.
the migraines. And it's a season that if you're not really prepared, you're gonna feel a lot of pain and you're gonna feel discomfort. So it's very important to understand how everything happens, how the environment is molding your behavior, how the environment is shaping your habits, so you can fight against it.
That's right.
And bring a little bit more the question in why do we feel so stiff? And this represents exactly why. Because anytime we go outdoors, at least in Canada right now, we have this problem going on. We are afraid of sleeping. We are afraid of falling the whole time. Even if we are safe with the proper shoes, proper outfit, we are still in danger. We gotta be cautious. We gotta have extra caution. And whenever we relax a little bit more, we oopsie, I just fell a little bit up. Let's return. Let's to be a little bit more paying attention on what we are doing. And this is even a little bit philosophical because last winter I was thinking about because this is the season that makes us be on in the present. We need to be aware. We need to be paying attention to how is our body going. And even whenever we are walking, we're the whole time like stiff. We cannot walk that much loose, depending on the place we are walking, especially in the area today.
Yes.
We get stiff because we are afraid of falling, and it's a perfectly a reaction of the body. So it's important to create a good uh, feedback and feed forward response. So our muscles are so adapt to this kind of instability and this kind of situation that the muscles won't get stiff anymore because they are already prepared for this environment.
Yep.
And
Okay.
talking a little bit more
Yeah.
about the problems.
Yeah. So again, one big one, which I'm sure, it's all over social media and the news, is this low vitamin D from reduced sunlight. And again, in this part of the world, this at this latitude, we actually even have low absorption of vitamin D, even when there is sunlight. So the combination of less ability to absorb vitamin D can create achy joints and muscles without having done anything. Can decrease the immune system function, so you're more susceptible to colds and infections, which in turn can make your muscles hurt. Very common. Low mood just from not just the lack of light, which is one of the biggest things we talk about is, we talk about more light can help with mood, but actual low vitamin D levels can also affect our neurotransmitters that are responsible for mood. Um, when we have fatigue that doesn't improve with sleep, many people, especially this time of year, I've heard my patients are like, oh, I had a hard time getting up. I even went to bed at a normal time. I went to bed early. I myself, a couple of weeks ago, was wondering, why is it so hard for me to get up? I definitely go to bed early. And I think it's the low light. So, really being intentional about a light exposure because you're not getting it as much as you can. And one of the other things we see a lot of with our patients when they're having a lot of musculoskeletal pain and stiffness, and I know there's inflammation, is they have brain fog, or they have a hard time, like, their thought processes are a little slower than they'd like. It's all connected to inflammation. And a lot of it is just from low vitamin D. We go to the next one. Next one. Yeah. Inflammatory diet shifts. Again, I talked about this initially. Making poor choices, wanting a little bit more comfort food like donuts and pasta and potatoes. And I know I have the same cravings as everyone else does. So you might look for bloating and digestive discomfort. Maybe you're bloating more often. And that actually is a sign of some inflammation in the gut, which can transmit into the joints. Sugar cravings and energy crashes where you're tired because you're craving the sugar because you're tired. Swollen fingers and puffiness in the face. Actually, what I have found is when we're making inflammatory dietary choices, you may actually have full body inflammation and puffiness. So these are the patients in Andressa, and maybe you see them where you're like, wow, both of the calves are tight, the shoulders are both tight, everything feels like I touch it, and the patient's like, ow, ow, ow. That's when I know it's not one thing they're doing with their body or one stretch they're not doing or one weakness. That's when I know there's something systemic to their inflammation when it's kind of everywhere in the body. And if you start to feel that stiffness overall, which Andressa has been talking about, um, you even just changing the diet a little bit, decreasing the sweets a little bit and adding like sweet potatoes and fruit and warmed applesauce and things that still give you that carbohydrate kind of cozy feeling without having the inflammatory kick of the additional sugars can really help with a gut permeability and systemic inflammation. Do you ever see that, Andressa, where you're touching someone, you're like, they think their pain is here, but you're like, wow, everything is tight and everything hurts them. And, someone will say
A
to me, well, I
lot.
have, fibromyalgia. I'm like, or I think I have, and I'm like, well, there's something inflaming your body. And oftentimes at this time of year, I find it's our shifts in our diet that can create that instant inflammation and actually changing it. I've seen patients change in a week where they come back, they're like, okay, I tried to not have processed sugary things, and alcohol because there's lots of parties, and they feel much, much better. So those are just kind of
Caffeine
quick
sometimes
steps.
as well.
What's that?
Caffeine sometimes.
Yeah, it depends on the patient. Caffeine's interesting. For some people, it's really inflammatory, and for some people, it's really anti-inflammatory. That's a whole nother conversation, which would be
Yes,
interesting.
for me, it totally works. It's not inflammatory at all.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Let's go next slide. We talked about this, and Andressa, probably you see your patients when they are, even if their TMJ is tight, usually they have that stress and that circadian disruption. So circadian rhythm is our awake and sleep cycles. And I always say a good night's sleep starts with first thing in the morning. And so if you are waking up really tired, or you're going to bed and you can't sleep, you're having mood swings and irritability, you can't fall asleep into that deep sleep. Usually that's because of that circadian disruption, and even stress around this time of year. I find stress from it being cold, um, stress because it's darker and you feel like you go to work in the dark and you go home in dark. That's very stressful emotionally. And you might even find increased sensitivity to lights and noise and the everyday stress that you're used to just because of this dysregulation in our natural rhythm. And these seasonal affective patterns, I don't like to call it seasonal affective disorder, I like to call them patterns that happen when it gets less light. They're usually like, oh, I'm just not sleeping as well, and like, oh, I'm a little more anxious because I'm not sleeping as well. But we actually start to see this happen more often in the colder months for some of the reasons, Andressa, you spoke about, but also just due to this like less light and less movement. um, and so those hormonal shifts that happen with that can dysregulate our body's natural rhythm.
Yes, for sure.
Next.
And just talking a little bit of the inactivity that brings, by consequence, poor circulation. The less we move, the less our body flows better. So we need to have a good amount of exercise. I wouldn't say every day for 1 hour, which it would be a great scenario, but we all have busy lives, we all have, so usually I try to at least introduce to my patients mostly 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes of any activity, and sometimes we also we also, I really like and enjoy a lot to study a little bit on how is the patient's routine, because sometimes it's just small changes that you can switch during your day that will do a great difference. For instance, is instead of using the elevator, try to take the stairs. Instead of taking an Uber to go for 3 blocks, try to go on walking. Try to walk a little bit. Instead of I work at home, for instance. Okay, do you work in a seated position? Yes. Is it possible to bring it up your table? Is it possible to adapt your environment a little bit so you can walk a little, so you can still, you gotta work, we totally understand, but you can try to adapt yourself. You can try to lift it up a little bit more the table, so you can try to do some leg flexions, so you can try to do a stationary walking. And all of these kind of changes that you can do in your day, it reduces significantly the mild swellings in the ankles and the legs, because the less we move, the less we activate the leg muscles, the less we are pumping the all the liquid, all the lymphatic fluids, all the blood, everything. We are not pumping properly. We are not filtering properly everything. And by consequence, we will have the swellings combined with everything that you mentioned already, Christina, because the body is unique. It's
It,
a whole unit. So we
it's
cannot have
interesting.
different.
I read an article maybe a couple years back on calf raises and blood sugar sensitivity. Because the other thing that happens is when we're sitting so much, is that our blood sugar can be dysregulated. And if you're pre-diabetic, or you're kind of have a family history, but you're not a big mover, or you have a job where you literally have to sit on meetings all day, they've done some research on doing calf raises So as you're sitting, you lean forward, so you put a little bit of weight on your knees and you just do calf raises for a minute. And they've actually shown that people become a little more glucose sensitive. They pump some fluid out, but they actually, that mild contraction of their gastrocs and their soleus, those calf muscles, can also help with insulin sensitivity. So for those of you who just actually sit because you have to sit, because you are talking like my psychotherapists that we work with, they sometimes have to sit in front of their computer an hour at a time, and there's not a lot of break for movement. Um, Doing those calf raises can be helpful, and it can just one little tiny thing that you just add into your day, and you do it a couple of times.
Yes. And also, there's a lot of compression stockings that sometimes people use it for the venous supply return and reduce the swellingness and even the risk of developing a thrombosis. Most of times we can just do small adjustments like the calf raises exercises. We'll introduce a little bit. Do a small pumping exercises just with the ankle. Just stretch a little bit the leg and move up and down. It's already a pumping movement, which we can have a great return from this. It doesn't cost you anything and it brings a lot of benefits. And a very good advice that I can bring for from the inactivity that we can have is try to have a huge bottle of water on your side. So you're gonna drink 2 liters, sometimes a little bit more, and your body will cry for you to go to the washroom more often.
Yeah. I was just going to say that. It's funny that you said, I was literally like drinking my big thing, and I'm like, this is actually, if you do sit and you make yourself go to the bathroom more often, you'll get up, you'll use your quads, you'll use your calves, you'll sit on the toilet, which will use your glutes and your hamstrings and your quad. And so there's muscle contraction there. So that's so funny.
Exactly. And you're gonna have at least a brain pause. At least every 1 hour, you need to have the brain pause to reset a little bit the body. Otherwise, you are just overworking the whole time
Yeah,
and you'll never get rest.
great. Okay, so we talked about environmental stress from being indoor, from indoor air, heating, dry air, and the lighting. So one of the ways that you can tell if that's your environment is actually giving you some problems if you're waking up with dry, itchy eyes and itchy skin, which happens a lot to people. Headaches or pressure behind the eyes can happen from both unnatural lighting for long periods of time and or um, environmental toxins, in your air returns and in your heating vents. Trouble concentrating. Some people have trouble concentrating under artificial light. So we recommend, blue blocking glasses. If you're at work and you can't change the lights because it's not part of under your control, then things like blue blocking glasses, there's lots of them online. Fatigue from being indoors for a long period of time. And I think that's a combination of the poor air quality, but also just stagnation, no movement. We get tired I'm sure the same happens with you. When I have my patients, I'm like, are you exercising? And they're like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to, but I'm too tired. I'm like, I promise you, the more you exercise and move in a day, the more energy you have because you're flushing everything. So if you're being fatigued from being inside and working and not getting outside, this is like your body telling you you need to move. It's your body giving you a warning sign. And then if you're starting to get sensitive to smells or cleaning products, when we become very sensitive to chemicals in our environment, it's usually because we have some liver congestion, and that liver congestion can come from environmental indoor pollution that slowly clogs up our liver. Lots of ways to help with that: detoxifying food, lots of liquids, um, but heightened sensitivity to chemicals means that there's maybe some congestion in your liver, and that's something that you've got to get outside and sweat so you can get rid of that. um, a clue. These things are often brushed off as normal winter things. Of course, you're dry, your skin is drier because you're indoors, or, of course, you're tired from being inside. But you may be having other exposure to environmental stressors, which a lot of people don't know. I've had patients who are slowly, they get sick over years. We pin it back to their work environment having mold toxicity and mold toxins. So just being aware that in your environment at work, um, maybe you work in a school, it's maybe an old school, maybe you work in an old building, may also be creating some stress on your body and can trigger some inflammation, especially if you are one of those people who genetically is sensitive to and having a hard time releasing toxins. So just look for those things because I think people are like, well, my skin is supposed to be dry. And yeah, like, I get headaches in the winter because we're inside and yeah, I get sensitive. It's like, okay, but these might be a bigger issue. So just really understanding what your body's telling you or knowing that it's saying there's something wrong and digging a little deeper is important. Next. Okay, this is specifically for once you've been sick, but I will say oftentimes people's families, because I have 3 kids, so sometimes they're sick and I don't get sick, I don't get the symptoms, but I may be tired for like a week afterwards, and I don't succumb to getting sick. So really understanding if your immune system is working over time, or that you've had a virus and then like a week later you're like, oh, I'm still pretty tired, or we learned during COVID that you could lose your sense of taste and smell. That's for all viral infections. Um, you may have this lingering fatigue after you've been sick. You may have low grade body aches. You may have mood changes in your ability. I actually see that a lot in younger kids once they've been sick. If the inflammation is still there, there's a condition where their brain stays inflamed and they become very irritable and moody. Also happens in adults. It's just not, we can hide it better than they can. And even having swollen lymph nodes will tell me that there's some stagnation in the lymph. So even mild bugs, even things that don't affect you, like I said, when my kids are sick, sometimes I don't get sick, but I might feel tired. It's just an alert that your body's saying, hey, I'm working hard. And so really taking some steps, which we'll share some, proactive steps with you a little later in the talk, will help with the inflammation level in your body and will help with that overall stiffness and feeling of tiredness. Next.
And now let's discuss a little bit more about winter ergonomics. Ergonomics is just the study of the human posture adapting itself to the work activity or any activity that you might need to do it. One of the main things that whomever has a home or a patio or anything is the shower that we just need to understand one thing. Whenever we are gonna do any physical activity, we warm up our body. We
Yeah.
do a proper warm up. But what do we really do when we need to remove the snow from the road, from the path, from anything? We just put a jacket. When we really prepare, we put a good snow boots. Otherwise, it's just a regular shoe or anything like that because you are wearing your pajamas sometimes. And we just take the shovel and start going. But what happens is most of people never realize one thing. Let me just put a little bit down this way. They never open their legs in trying to protect the lower back. They never use properly the knee to try to adjust yourself to the height. They just use this way, do this way,
Yeah.
and go. They flex a lot, then put an over stress for the lower back. And what kind of physical preparation do you really have to develop this ability of taking? Because snow is pretty much heavy. We're not talking about a very light activity. We're talking about a very heavy activity that yes requires 1 kilo, 2 kilograms. In pounds is not that easy. It's not that fast, my knowledge, but 4 kilos, let's say this way, we really are doing a heavy job without any preparation. And it's important to take very small habits like open widely your legs, use more your knees to protect yourself, protect your lower back. The knees are made to flex and put your body in a lower position. Your back is not made for doing exactly this repetitive movement, neither your arms, but we're gonna talk a little bit on the next slide.
And the other thing, Andressa, that I find is that you come out after work and you have to shovel things when you get home, and you've been sitting all day. So all the muscles in your pelvis, those pelvic floor muscles that are holding you, your back muscles, your glutes, everything's tired already. and then you go and you pick up something. So even if you are a strong person, that warm up is so important. And the stance, I think, is it's a very simple shift for people. Spread the legs, bend the knees, use your arms. We learned as practitioners in school when you're working
Yes.
on someone not to bend over, which I'm sure you try. I definitely didn't use that stance, the ergonomic stance, in my first couple of months. I'd bend over just like you showed a person would with shoveling. And I would have a lot of back pain, and I would do the funny stance, the legs spread open and bend the knees. And I could do that for hours. So those
Yes.
small shifts can make a massive difference on how much you load your discs and your joints in your low back, and can really, really help protect you from injuring yourself at the beginning of the season when you start shoveling your snow.
It's even like a Reels meme, a TikTok meme where they joke a lot about the posture that as a practitioners we physical therapists, chiropractors use because they always keep asking, is it possible to see a patient without doing that many crazy postures? Because everybody's like the whole time like these,
Yeah,
and try, but the back is always aligned. We always try to protect it because otherwise we don't have the back by the end of the day. We cannot
that's
see
right.
three patients, we already don't have a lower back.
Absolutely.
So it's a very good test. It's a very good test. Whenever we feel too much pain after two, three patients, it's because we are doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And even this situation, it's even more common for everybody. Even if you have a parking indoor, if you live in a condo or an apartment, you gotta do this eventually. At least at least here we don't have that much of indoor parkings. Sometimes we just park outside, we go to work, spend 5, 6 hours working. Once we are returning, we have 10 centimeters of snow. We are not wearing a proper vest most of the time because just left work, we are just trying to reach our car and bam, we see the shower there. We have the brush, we try to do our best, but most of the time we are trying to reach the car in a very above the shoulder position, created a huge impact for the shoulder. And it's very important to understand what is going on once you do this kind of movement because we're not just respecting the shoulder physiology. We are overworking the shoulder. And once we create this impactful situation for the shoulder, we tend to develop a little bit more shoulder injuries that might be hurtful for the future. So most of times, whenever we forgot, I don't have to go and work out. I don't want to go to the gym anymore because it's cold outside. No, it's exactly because it's cold outside. You gotta prepare your body
Yeah.
for all the possible situations that you're gonna face it.
Yeah.
And even sometimes we have a couple of tools and we have a couple of technology involved. We have bigger trucks also that can remove the snow, but it's a little bit more pricey possibility. It's not everyone who really use those machines every single day.
But you're still bending over, and they're not made for tall people like me. So, and you're pushing. So again, being careful by spreading your legs as you're pushing through and using the bend in your knees to help you push it as opposed to like pushing with your back. I think with all of these tools is very important.
Yeah, for this guy, it's not a proper tool as well. He's killing himself. But that's the importance of understanding what technologies are on our favor, what are the machines proper for any activities. This way we can protect ourselves and not suffer that much. So how can we stay active during winter time? Most of patients I heard many, many times telling me, oh, there's no much to do on winter time. We live in Canada. Everything happens indoor. We have plenty of options indoor. And once you learn how to live properly outdoors, there's also a bunch of stuff you can do it and you can really enjoy just as long as you are really prepared. So let's face it this way. You do everything indoor in order to prepare yourself for the outdoor activities. So you're gonna be safe and it's not gonna be risky for you. For instance, we can do a very good workout at the gym. You can do dance classes outdoors we have many, many hiking options, especially here in Toronto. We have so many parks available for us. We have so many trails that we could do. Even here nearby Bosnar area, we have at least two or three parks with a huge trail that we can follow. If you like a little bit more challenges, you can try to run because it's very important. We have many, many runners. We have a lot of marathons. We have a lot of competitions going on summertime. So you gotta prepare yourself. And the winter is a good time to prepare also. You cannot stop on winter time. Otherwise, you won't be prepared for the marathon next year. We also have Pilates, we have yoga, which are very awesome combinations of exercises that you can do because they combine flexibility and strength at the same time with breathing. It creates a better culture for your to respect your body limits. It's an amazing tool to use during winter season, especially during winter season, because you will learn how your body compensates for every movement that you don't have this training for this. So it's a magic tool that combines mind, body, and spirit at the same times. And for outdoors, we also can go to Blue Mountain, go for a walk using the proper tools, the proper helper. It's not the most high tech, the one that the guy is using, but
Dick, it's
it's a
great.
very
It's
good
free.
example. How can be that simple? It's very simple. Ice skating, it's a very good sport that you can do. It's free. Just get your ice skating shoes and go. It's very good, especially once you are doing a proper hip stabilization, ankle stabilization, knee stabilization. Once you have a very good training for this, it's just go and enjoy outside. We have
And these
many
are
possibilities.
And these are social events too, right? So the one thing that I also see is a lot of people don't know that isolation, being lonely, is actually biochemically inflammatory to your body. They've done studies in the last decade showing that people who were lonely had more inflammatory markers high, which creates body pains and joint pains and headaches and low mood. And so even those, if you are inclined to go skating or skiing or hiking, doing it outside with community and people impacts all of those things that we see exponentially. And for those, I have some older patients who are obviously afraid of maybe their ankle stabilization isn't good and they're afraid of falling. One of the kind of interesting things that's happened, I would say, probably in the last 6 or 7 years that I don't remember seeing when I was a kid is people go to malls and walk. So my parents go to a mall in the winter when it's too slippery. They go outside a little bit around because it's always salted around a mall. There's less ice because they're very careful so they don't get sued. But they do laps inside, and you can see groups of people who are older or have maybe some muscular joint issues and they're feel unstable in the snow. They can still keep up their cardiovascular fitness by going into a mall. So there's really no excuse, except that you don't want to step outside in the cold because maybe you don't have all of the right gear.
And even if you don't have the right gear to step outside sometimes, many buildings has their own gym, they have their own
Right.
pool, and it's just go.
Yeah.
We have also some courts, sport courts that we can do. We have many, many. Badminton is pretty much famous in here. We also are having pickleball, that is a new trend for us here.
Yeah.
And for the ones who like a better challenge for the cold, we have the ice plunging. Is that correct, Christina?
Yeah, cold plunging. I haven't done it in a lake. I do it. I love it. It's not for everyone, and there's a way to do it, but it's definitely a way to get a thrill in the winter.
It's a challenge, maybe one time. You can do a snowboarding. It's a very risky activity. You gotta know what you are doing, but it's a good option for the ones who likes a little bit more sports. There is skiing as well. You can have tobogganing for if you go up to Milton Berry. I think Blue Mountain has this option as well. It's very fun and a social activity, as Christina mentioned it as well. And indoors, we have the VR on our side. because it simply creates a new world where you can do whatever you want. It exposes you to do some sports. You can dance, you can walk as much as you are safe in a safe environment with protection on the screen in front of you. But it's a very good option for the ones who rather a little bit more fantasy world. And you can also do a lot of sports like jiu-jitsu, like judo, like taekwondo. There are all modalities. And here in Toronto, we have all the possible, the world is in here. So we have all the possibilities of
Yeah.
options.
Yeah. And I encourage people to try something different in the winter. And like really like you just have to move. So any of the options that work and just getting dressed properly, going outside for the fresh air, getting the sunlight, one of the circadian supports that we use for people who, as we get low light outside, and some people are affected more than other by less light, is we can use this full spectrum light therapy lamp called the Happy Light. Can get them in a lot of different places online. But if you use it before 10 a.m., it can mimic the morning sun. I find something else that's very useful is when you wake up, if you're really tired this time of year, which happens just because of the way everything's shifted, really exposing your eyes to the first amount of light that comes for 10 or 15 minutes stimulates your optic nerve to your brain to tell your body, hey, it's time to release dopamine, it's time to wake up. And that can be really helpful. I know people at this time of year like to kind of wake up slowly. Their lights are dim and they have their tea and they want to wake up slowly, but that makes it much harder for your brain to know, oh, it's time to wake up. So if you're one of those people having that hard time and you think keeping low lights and just, that's going to be better for your nervous system, but you're having a very hard time, try the opposite. Turn on your lights. Tell your body it's time to wake up. Expose your eyes to the light, even if you're inside, just so that your brain is signaled like, okay, it's time to get up. Let's get the dopamine. Dopamine is our molecule of motivation. It helps us get up and start getting our day. I also highly recommend people get outside every single day, unless you are sick, every single day. Um, and having the 30 to 60 minutes again, I would love 60. I don't even get 60 every day. Um, just 10 minutes of that morning sunlight can help. Really, I would say a good night's sleep happens first thing in the morning. First starts in the morning as you get that exposure and your body's like, okay, it's time to wake up. I know I'm supposed to be awake now. It will boost a little bit of your natural vitamin D just being exposed to the light. And then just getting outside. Like if you have to go park your car, 1 block away, it's cold, it's slippery, but really getting outside, getting that fresh air really helps support our awake sleep cycles in a way that is protective to our immune system and our hormones, which creates less inflammation for less body aches. Okay. If we want to try shifting things even more, you can get a broad spectrum or daylight mimicking light bulbs. You can buy those at the hardware store. We want to reduce exposure to fluorescent lights because they're very inflammatory. Even as some LEDs, depending on the color of the light, you want warmer color like the sun. So if you don't want to remember anything, remember that the yellower the light bulb or orangey the light bulb is, the more it looks like the sun, the better it is for us. And again, outside, being near natural daylight with your windows, your screens open or your shutters open so that you can get that natural light, especially in the midday, will help you regulate your circadian rhythm and your immune system, and also helps reduce fatigue when you get a little bit of outdoor light and air. And I will say that um, even going out when it's snowy and sunny, even if it's not sunny, and you get that reflection from the sun, and it also stimulates your brain in a way that's very anti-inflammatory. So, you know, there's no kind of sometimes people are like, well, give me the supplement or what's the hack? I'm like, the biohack is just getting outside and getting the light. That's the easiest, cheapest way to do it. So that would be my suggestion for those.
Try to work with whatever you have at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. If you're sick, but you want to get better, you open your window a little bit and you open your blinds and you get some light and some fresh air if you can't move around. And then for lymphatic activation, and Andy probably would suggest this for patients too. One of the tools you can get, and the holidays are coming, maybe you have a gift you want to get, is like a mini rebounder. They look like mini trampolines. And just doing a little bit of that 5, 6 minutes a day helps push the toxins actually out of your body, your lymph that are carried in your lymphatics to get them out, helps with that swelling. Also calms the nervous system quite nicely, just that rhythmical motion. If you're feeling a lot of stress being indoors, doing 2 minutes of jumping jacks between meetings. I know between patients, I drink a lot. And some days it's very, very busy and I don't get out. I will go to the back and do some air squats, or I will walk back and forth. Luckily, in our jobs were very physical, so I feel like my lymphatics are flowing all the time. For lymphatic activation outdoors, it's really just taking a walk, doing some stairs. It will just help move everything, which supports detoxification in our body. And when our detoxification pathways are working well, we have less inflammation, and our circulation is better. So I'm always like, hey, get outside for 10 to 20 minutes daily if you can. 8 minutes, no problem. You got home, you put your kids to sleep, you're tired, go for a walk around the block, literally a walk around the block. Let one person stay home. Take your kids outside for a walk around the block before they go to bed. They'll sleep better. They'll move their lymphatics. Maybe they've been sitting on maybe they're middle schoolers and they're sitting on their computer and they're not being active. Really important to take them for that little walk where there's not a lot of light outside. So their brain is also stimulated, like, hey, it's time for us to produce melatonin so we can fall asleep. So all of these old school kind of tools that aren't technology are going to work the best, and they are the simplest and the usually free.
Most of most of it are free
That's right.
that we can do for ourselves.
So, anti-inflammatory nutrition. Again, this is the season of holidays, from Halloween to Thanksgiving to Christmas to Hanukkah to whatever else you. But there's always gatherings with sweet treats, and so in between those, trying to figure out how to keep yourself healthy. And I batch cook every Sunday. I have for a long time. Unless my kids are at a tournament, then we do it Saturday. And making soups and stews, one big pot that you can kind of go through in the week. Very good. You can put all kinds of veggies. You can get some protein in there so that you've regulated and supported your immune system. And you can even throw some things like turmeric and garlic, which are very anti-inflammatory, really good for the immune system. Um, Doing things like that are very helpful once a week to keep you kind of going nutrition wise during the week. And things like warm beverages like ginger tea can really help with inflammation, or turmeric ginger tea, or fennel and chamomile are very, very good. Outdoor, anti-inflammatory nutrition for outdoors. I encourage people to go to local winter markets and stock up on things that have just been pulled out of the ground, like the root vegetables, and just to plan these like very non labor intensive, but batch cooking, roasting root vegetables. I feel like those kinds of food in the winter will fulfill our craving for that carbohydrates, which we do crave more carbohydrates as we get into the winter. That's just natural. But they're good carbohydrates with lots of nutrients and vitamins and minerals that are going to support our bodies so it's less inflamed. Again, going back to what we see in the practice is stiffness and soreness and pain. This nutrition approach to being a little less inflammatory is also going to be, one of those tools that you can use.
So pretty much the golden rule for outdoor activities is to have a very good pair of warm boots, snow boots, winter boots with a good proper insulation and a good proper waterproof and a good proper sole, so you prevent yourself from falling and you can walk with a lot more confidence, and it does a huge difference. Whether you are using a proper shoes or not, you're gonna feel it in your body, and the body screams and yells at you. And also the warm clothes, which is pretty much the most important thing also, because once you are warm enough, you can enjoy and you can do whatever you need to do properly on winter time. And just a small suggestion on how to wear properly for a cold, snowy day, we can also use the layer rule as one of the best options for us, because we is also always good to wear a proper merino shirt that absorbs a little bit more the sweat, and on the top of this, a wool sweater, a proper vest to keep all the essential organs and all the center of the body warm enough. And above everything, a very good and warm jacket. For the bottom, a nice first layer, a legging, a thermic pants and a proper jeans, which is also very good to create a layer that protects yourself from the wind, from also snow boots, snow pants.
Snow pants are
That
key.
creates a very
Snow
good
pants.
protection, especially for kids.
No, even for adults in I will tell you in January and February when it's -20 with the wind chill, but you want to get outside because you feel better, investing in a good pair of thin snow pants or boots to your knee and jacket to your bottom of your leg so nothing is showing. It is like you go out, you're good. You're not cold and you feel invigorated. So I love the snow pants and I got them when I had kids because I was standing outside with them all the time and they were tobogganing and I had to pick them up. But I found that actually I still wear them even though they're teenagers and they don't toboggan anymore. I still wear them when it's really cold because it's very helpful. And then when it comes to the hats and mitts and scarf, when it's very cold, if you find the mitts like this aren't helpful or it's cold, it's too cold, I would say right now it's okay for that. Ski mitts. Invest like when the sales go on in January, invest in a good pair of ski mitts, a good, I even have like a hat that has the ear things and I put a hood on and I'm good. Like I can be outside for hours. And really our intention here is to show you how to keep warm, but also make sure that you're not afraid of getting out in the cold because movement is life and we need to move and we need to move daily because, you know, genetically we're hunter gatherers by nature. Our physiology is that of a hunter gatherer. So if we're not climbing trees and bigging out shoots, we have to be moving on a daily basis. And we are far too sedentary.
And we gotta face the winter.
And we have to face the winter. So mentally, you know, one of the things we really try and teach our patients, and I'm hoping to leave you with this, is are you listening to what your body is saying? Your body's always talking to you, giving you good feedback and bad feedback. And mentally, if you're feeling overwhelmed or easily irritated, or you have low motivation, or you just like feel blah, your anxiety is increasing, you've got mood swings, maybe you're having a hard time at work concentrating, you're feeling disconnected from your body. That is your body telling you, I need movement. It's so simple. I need movement. I need to get out some of this energy. I need to move the lymphatic system to detox, and then I'll feel less stressed out and inflamed in my body, which may look like a mood swing. I think all of these things are, really learning when you're off. Uh, what is my body telling me?
Yes, and physically the body tells every single day, every time. We just need to have the perception on how we are feeling. Just close your eyes and just try to understand a little bit more. What is going on with my body? What's my body telling me every single moment of my life? Because the body sends the information. The body sends a message the whole time. Am I having too much headaches? Am I feeling too much bloated the whole time? Am I feeling too much soreness? Am I stiff the whole time? What is going on? Why am I feeling this tinnitus? What is this tinnitus that is happening? What does that mean? Why do I have a soreness on my teeth in the morning time? What is going on? The body keeps telling the whole time. We just gotta be aware and try to have a moment of silence and understand a little bit better what message you are receiving.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go a little bit fast as our time is a little bit short. And pretty much is that's the summarizing of everything that you can really do for your body. Stretches, movement, morning sunlight, nourishing meals, red light therapy, and proactive therapies. The body is always talking to you the whole time. You just got to figure it out and do the proper requirements that the body is asking for.
And my favorite quote, which is on the next page, maybe we go to the next page. Um, that if you don't take care of your body, there's nowhere else for you to live. So it's so important to move, get light, get good sleep, and eat nourishing food. Those are our kind of takeaways here. It's not time to shut down. It's time to move and create intention and strength so that you can get outside. And like we said, just 10 minutes of morning light is just as effective for mood as some pharmaceuticals have been shown. And last
And
question, right?
yes, your body is speaking. The real question is, are you listening?
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Andressa actually has to leave because this was a little bit longer. I'm happy to stay. I don't know if you can put me back on. I think I still am on there. So Andressa's has to go because she has a patient. Thank you so much for the conversation, and I
Thank you
can
so
answer any
much.
questions if there's any left. Okay, thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, Kristina. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a all a nice day.
Okay, see you. Okay, just for those of you, I have one question. Hopefully you're okay with me reading this out. The cold and mental triggered my knee osteoarthritis, has led to some knee and hip pain for the past 3 weeks. I've previously had a torn meniscus from multiple falls. Physiotherapy has helped, but exercise has also aggravated. Orthopedic surgeon or orthopedist is suggesting hyaluronic acid injection or PRP if steroid injection doesn't work. So I'm going to answer it live. Um, it's hard to know, and this is the truth. It's hard to know if it was triggered 3 weeks ago. You may need a little bit more strength and a little bit more rehab. I don't know if you've tried any acupuncture. I find acupuncture extremely effective for knees and shoulder joints. They're very complex joints. Um, oh, I have another one. Um, Hey, how about I just allow you to talk and ask me the question? I'm going to allow you to talk here, Janie, um, if that's okay with you. And maybe you
Hi.
want to ask the question. You don't have to turn on your video. Or if that was just the question, um,
Hi, is Christina, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, I didn't see that I could ask in the Q&A
That's
session.
okay.
Well, thank you so much. I'm Andressa's friend, and
Oh,
it was
hi.
really good. It was helpful. And I was wondering, I would love for my husband to watch this. He can't right now because he's at work.
Yes,
So are you sharing the
yes,
link of the recording?
yes, there is a recording. We're still recording and we'll be sharing it. Yes, for sure.
Amazing. Because like we recently moved to a house. Now he needs to do the shovel thing with the snow. And I watch him and he's bending the back, not the knees.
Yeah.
And if I tell him anything, he's like, "You're not a perfect, like you're not a
Yes, of
specialist."
course. Family doesn't listen to us.
Yes. So thank you so much for your time. It
Oh, it's
was
my pleasure. Yeah, and we will send out just if you want to share it with any of your friends as well, just more information that people can have, the more people we can help. Enjoy being outside and feel less stiff. That's really our goal as a community here at Boston Health. We just really, there's only so many patients we can see. But if we can help people and they can tell their friends, I think these are all very simple things that you can do. And someone else wrote this. Oh, you're welcome. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas and holidays, whatever you celebrate, maybe some time off, but get outside. Don't forget to get outside. Thank you so much for being with us. And we'll see you next time on the next webinar we do. Okay, bye-bye.